Your mind is loud not because it is broken, but because it has never been taught how to be silent. The noise you hear inside you, the constant replaying of conversations, the imagined futures, the endless analysis, is not a personal failure. It is the natural result of a mind that reacts before it understands. Most people believe overthinking means something is wrong with them. The Stoics saw it differently. They understood that mental noise begins the moment we forget where our control truly lies. And until that moment is corrected, the mind will never rest. Think carefully about this. Your thoughts do not attack you on their own. They are invited in. Every wave of overthinking starts with a reaction so fast you don't even notice it. A comment, a memory, a fear, a look from someone else, and instantly the mind tightens, grabs, resists. The Stoics called this the first disturbance, not the thought itself, but your judgment of it. You label it dangerous, urgent, personal. And the moment you do, the mind goes to work trying to protect you. It replays, predicts, and prepares endlessly. What you experience as mental noise is actually your mind trying to defend you from a threat that exists mostly in imagination. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. If your thoughts are rushed, fearful, and uncontrolled, your inner world becomes the same. But the Stoics never tried to silence thoughts by force. They knew that fighting the mind only creates more resistance. Instead, they trained themselves to step back, to observe without immediately reacting. This is where the Stoic way begins. Not by stopping thoughts, but by removing the urgency you attach to them. Notice how overthinking feels in the body. Tight chest, shallow breath, restlessness. This is important because the Stoics understood that mental noise is not just psychological. Overstimulation pulls the nervous system into constant alert. You are not weak. You are overloaded. Too many inputs, too many judgments, too many moments where the mind says, "This matters more than it really does." When everything feels urgent, nothing feels peaceful. Epictetus taught that people are disturbed not by events, but by their opinions about events. This single idea dismantles overthinking at its root, because if your suffering comes from opinion, then relief comes from awareness. The Stoic does not ask, "How do I stop thinking?" He asks, "What am I adding to this moment that does not belong here?" Most mental noise is unnecessary commentary layered on top of reality. Reality itself is usually simple. It is the story we tell about it that creates chaos. Consider how often your mind rushes ahead of the present. You replay something you said. You imagine what someone might think. You predict outcomes you cannot control. The Stoics saw this as a misuse of attention. Attention is meant for what is in front of you now, not for rehearsing imaginary trials. When attention leaves the present, anxiety enters. Mental noise is simply attention wandering where it does not belong. The Stoic way back to silence is not dramatic. It is subtle. It begins with restraint, the pause between stimulus and response. When something triggers you, the instinct is to react immediately, to explain, defend, analyze. The Stoic trains himself to wait, not because he is suppressing emotion, but because he understands that clarity arrives only after stillness. In that pause, you regain authority over your inner world. Seneca warned that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Overthinking feeds on imagined futures and rewritten pasts. The Stoic response is grounded realism. What is actually happening right now? What is within my control in this moment? What can I release without loss? These questions cut through mental noise like a blade through fog. They return the mind to solid ground. Silence for the Stoic is not emptiness. It is order. A well-ordered mind allows thoughts to come and go without clinging. You begin to see thoughts the way you see clouds, passing formations, not permanent structures. When you stop identifying with every thought, overthinking loses its power. The noise fades not because you forced it away, but because it was never given permission to stay. Modern life overwhelms the mind with constant stimulation, but the Stoic discipline remains the same. Reduce unnecessary input. Guard your attention. Choose what deserves your energy. Mental noise grows when boundaries disappear. Peace returns when you decide that not every thought requires engagement. Not every emotion requires expression. Not every reaction deserves action. There is a quiet strength in this restraint. People often mistake calm for passivity, but the Stoics knew it as mastery. When you no longer react impulsively, the world loses its grip on you. External chaos no longer creates internal disorder. You begin to move through life with steadiness. Situations still arise. Thoughts still appear, but they do not control you. Over time, this practice reshapes your inner world. The mind learns that it does not need to shout to be heard. It learns that silence is safe. That stillness is not danger. And gradually, The mental noise that once felt constant begins to soften. Gaps appear. Moments of quiet stretch longer. You start to recognize peace not as something you chase, but as something that was always available once you stopped interfering with it. The Stoics never promised a life without thoughts, emotions, or challenges. They promised something more realistic and more powerful: freedom from unnecessary suffering. Freedom from the mind's habit of turning everything into a problem. When you understand that overthinking is not who you are, but a habit you can unlearn, the mind relaxes. It no longer needs to protect an identity built on fear. And so the Stoic way to end mental noise is not about control in the aggressive sense. It is about alignment. Aligning attention with reality. Aligning effort with what is within your power. Aligning your inner response with reason rather than impulse. In that alignment, the mind settles naturally. In the end, peace is not something you add to your life. It is something you uncover when you remove what does not belong. When you stop arguing with reality. When you stop reacting to every thought as if it were a command. When you learn to sit with the moment as it is, without resistance. And in that quiet space, where the mind no longer rushes ahead or drags behind, you discover what the Stoics always knew: silence was never absent. It was simply waiting for you to return to yourself.